What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the $2 Sports Podcast. I am your co-host, Rusty Buckets, and I am back, baby. I am here, ready to do this episode with my co-host, colleague, the infamous Drew Gann, a.k.a. Uncle Buck. Welcome to the podcast, sir. Man, I am fired up to be here tonight.
What is up, Uncle Buck? Shoot.
Uncle Buck. You Uncle Buck.
Yeah, you got me sideways. This big intro.
No, your kids call me Uncle Buckets all the time, so you just got tripped up. That's what it is.
That's what I didn't finish the word. I caught myself before I finished the word. Man, it is good to hear that intro. I've been missing my big intros from my co-host lately. So we are here, despite the circumstances surrounding the Memphis Grizzlies. We're here to have a good time. And we're going to do that regardless of what the roster looks like, what the schedule looks like, the outcomes are. We're here one night a week to give you a fun time. And so we can sulk in our recliners. This recliner is my sulking chair this last
week. Mine's right here.
That has been my sulking chair for the last 4 days. But while I'm in this podcast chair right now, we got an hour a week where we're nothing but positive and happy to be here.
Listen, we're going to take a quick moment of silence. So this is the only sulking and sadness we're going to do. We're going to do a quick moment of silence for the Memphis Grizzlies and their roster this year. You know, Drew, real quick moment of silence. And we're back. So this is shades of like 2015-16 when we played like 28 players, right? Like it's going to be another one of those years. But we'll get to all that here in a few minutes. I agree. This is my sulking chair, and I have to watch it on my laptop because, you know, the kind lady who's renting me this house here in Martin, Tennessee on Elm Street has YouTube TV for me, but it doesn't carry. It's a bare minimum package. So, Missy, if you're listening to this, like, I appreciate it, but we need Valley Sports.
And so you can get that. You can subscribe to it on the Valley app. Or Fubo TV is now the streaming service that you can get Valley on. Or
you can use your dad's DirecTV login,
which is what I do.
Stream, and I'll watch it on my laptop, sitting in my sulking chair right here. So I ain't missing no Grizz games, and I ain't paying for Valley Sports.
So before we get into it, we start our podcast every single week with our best and beef of the week. This is rarely ever sports related. This is Drew Gann and Rusty Witten talking about what has bugged us this week and the best thing that's happened this week. So I will start because my best of the week is obvious. I'm wearing it. As you can see on my chest here is a brand new $2 Sports Podcast t-shirt. This shirt was given to me as a Christmas present from my co-host Rusty Witten and Rusty Witten only. And my wife got one. I got one, and Rusty got one. And so, because Rusty, of course, if he was going to buy me a Christmas present, he was going to buy him one too. So,
and I've got an extra small that my nephews are now fighting over. So there you go.
So, could not be more stoked to have a piece of merchandise with my face on it that I can wear around in public, and people think that I'm the single most conceited person in the world. But whatever you got to do to boost your brand, to boost your product, to boost this podcast, I will do it humbly.
Absolutely. And so listen, guys, if y'all are listening to Spotify or Apple, pause right now. Here's your moment. Go to YouTube, look at our ugly mugs, see this shirt that Drew is wearing. If you want one, DM me on Instagram. DM the podcast at the number 2 Buck Sports Podcast. DM us on Twitter at the number 2 Buck Sports Podcast. We'll be more than happy to get you a t-shirt. If we can get a large order together, we can get it in bulk. And the masses can get what they want. Drew, I've had many requests for T-shirts, hats, stickers. We're going to start with T-shirts and see where it goes.
Yeah, and like I said, we've got some big news coming down the pike. I know that we're going to just continue to get more listeners, more people interested in this podcast. And this shirt with this logo is a way to set the day ones apart from the bandwagoners that are undoubtedly going to come. Right. And so let Rusty know. Rusty and I both are logged into the Twitter account. Send us a message on Instagram, Twitter. We will get that together. We will be in contact with you, and we'll make
Facebook,
that work.
Text us if you've got our number. If you want to be an OG fan, right? The day ones out there, the Cousin Kirks, you know, the Jones brothers, the Kaylas,
Aaron
the Katie's, Aaron Ivy, like the League of Avengers. If y'all are out there and you want to be an OG, like the original, like this is going to be, Drew, one day this is going to be like the Vancouver Grizzlies, right? Like this is going to be a logo that you want to wear.
In 20 years, we're going to bring this back, and it's going to be worth 10 times what it is right now.
It ain't going nowhere anytime soon. We talked about that. But either way, it's going to be the original logo of the Two Buck Sports Podcast. And so if y'all want a piece of that, let us know. We can make that happen.
Yeah. And so, that's my best of the week. My Bucks best of the week is this beautiful gray T-shirt with mine and Rusty's face on it. Yeah. And just a quick, if you want to have Rusty's face left off of it, also let us know that in the message. So the price will be more expensive.
It will, but if you keep my shirt on there, it doubles as a scarecrow for your vegetable gardens this spring. It'll keep all the bugs and unwanted critters out of there. That's for sure. So,
Rusty, best thing that happened to you this week. Go.
Best thing that happened to me, Drew. I love music. I'm a music guy. I always have Spotify going. I send you songs a lot. I had a friend recommend to me that I take this year, and I've been doing this, and this has been really, really good for me. So I might have two like kind of cohabitating bests right here, because I can do that. It's our podcast. So I'm always listening to music, and a friend of mine, she recommended that I would every day pick a song of the day and create a Spotify playlist with it. And so I've been doing that every day. I listen to music while I'm walking to work, while I'm at the gym, getting ready. Like I always have Spotify playing, and when I hear a song that speaks to me that day, I add it to my playlist.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I thought it was a great idea, and it's going to be cool to see how that evolves, right? Because there's been a certain...
It's going to be weird when you get to like October and you try to add the same Need to Breathe song to the playlist.
Listen, we've already got the Caves album on there, right? So we're growing from there now.
Right.
But it's going to be cool to watch it evolve because the genre I've been listening to for the last couple of weeks is going to be a lot different than what I'm listening to in March and August.
Lord, I hope so.
Yeah, same. But anyhow, so that's like best 1A is this playlist. It's evolving. It's already got some great songs on there. If y'all want to know what's
on, you got to share it out.
I will. Let me know. I'll post it. Actually, I'll go ahead and tweet it out and I'll put it on their Instagram so our faithful followers can listen to it. My best 1B is I needed a creative, productive habit, right? And so I just got the urge. When I was in middle school, I was in a band.
I didn't know that.
Little buckets knowledge out there. I played the tuba for a little while. I actually,
of course.
So
because there was no one bigger than you no one could carry the tuba physically.
What's annoying is I made the band on a snare drum, and I was fired up.
Oh,
and then I get there, and Miss Peterson, if you're listening, you're my beef of the week.
I remember.
She said, "You know what? We need a tuba player." And I'm like, it's not my
you
problem.
You look like you can carry a tuba.
Not my problem. Anyway, so I ended up playing the tuba in middle school, but that's neither here nor there. So I've got some music talent. I also had a guitar when I was in middle school, and I was self-taught for a little bit and was playing the snot out of it. Well, I decided this past weekend that I'm going to get back into playing the guitar. And so I told my Aunt Tina, who works at Corinth's finest open market, that flea market right there behind where Pizza Hut used to be and is about to be again.
Right.
I said, hey.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No nugget there.
Pizza Hut.
Pizza Hut back. Yeah.
Big time.
They tore the building down just to build another pizza.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I said, any booths up there at the flea market have guitars? She said, yeah, they close at 6. You want to go? I was like, let's roll. So I'm texting Drew. He's the resident musician on this podcast, and was asking him some questions about some guitars. And I don't know if you're watching on YouTube. There it is. You can kind of see it over
the neck of it. There you go. Yeah.
I got a Fender Starcaster on a great deal. Was able to fix the bridge. A couple of little string holders were coming out. Able to fix that. It's good as new, man. And I've been playing the crap out of that guitar.
Good.
Some chords again. I've got my
write your own
sad
music.
That's it, man. So be on the lookout for some Two Buck Sports Pod music coming out. I'm gonna do our intro music and extra.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
No. But anyway, my best of the week has been music, man. Just doing that playlist has been good for my head and my heart. Playing that guitar has, while not been great for my fingers, has been good for me for getting out of my head, man. I love it. I'm all in.
My favorite lyric to any song in the world is from American Pie. And it says, did you write the book of love and you have faith in God above? If the Bible tells you so. Now, do you believe in rock and roll? Can music save your mortal soul? And can you teach me how to dance real slow? I love that line. And can music save your mortal soul? And the answer is unequivocally yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It is. Music has been so good for me over the last couple of weeks. I'm picking up a little bit on a Tyler Childers song that I'm jamming on, and then a little bit of a Zach Bryan song that I've learned some chords to and kind of picking with.
They're Zach Bryan is pickers,
Zach Bryan is pretty easy. Most of his songs, a lot of Tyler Childers are, but there's a couple that are very easy just to kind of strum through with an acoustic guitar, and so
they always their style of play has always been very envious of me. I'm a bass player. That's my bread and butter, but I can pick around on a 6 string and I know my chords. I can follow along. But the way they do it, and it's primarily chords,
Yeah.
But all the hammer-ons and the little ditties they do in the chord structure has always been my favorite way to hear a guitar played on acoustic, and they do that so well, both of them.
They do. Tyler Childers is my favorite musician in the world. Him and Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats, Zach Bryan are some common jams of mine. And like, I honestly like, I haven't been sleeping real good lately. Been up most of the night, and so like I've spent a lot of time over the last week playing guitar, and it's going really well. So I'm fired up. That's my best of the week.
That's awesome. We can start a band.
Let's go.
Catch
Here
the
we
pizza
come.
grocery in Corinth.
That's it. Shout out to the pizza
grocery. Rusty and I met.
We reignited our friendship.
So my beef of the week, and it's really my wife. I think she's bad luck. And so let me just get to it.
He don't mean that.
No. So my wife, who is a diehard Grizzlies fan with me, one of my favorite things about my wife is that she's genuinely invested in things that I'm invested in, and I try to replicate that back towards her for things that she's interested in, because she really puts forth an effort to try to care about things that I care about. And
there's a whole episode where she does.
And that's basically sports. That's all I care about. Sports is my family, and my job. And so she saw a pair of Jaw ones that she liked. The guava, the little light peach ones, got some purple and some pink on it. And she's always been eyeballing them. And Rusty, even when you were in town Friday or Saturday, we went and looked for a pair, and they didn't have any. Well, I found some online in youth sizes, which my wife doesn't have a very big foot. So I was able to find her a youth size pair of Jaw 1 guavas. And it came in the mail yesterday.
That's cool.
And she loves them. That is not my beef. My beef is, for the second time in a row, I buy her something Grizzlies related and something bad happens. So I bought her the Jaw 1 guavas the day after Jaw is announced that he is having season-ending shoulder surgery. It's just bad timing. Yeah. And then at the end of last season, I bought her a David Rodney jersey, number 27. And when Tyus Jones got traded, he changed his number to 21. She just has the worst timing of all. Yeah. So she was really excited about it. She teaches in the city limits here in Ripley at the city school, and she wore those to school today. And man, she had so much street cred rocking a pair of Jaw 1s at the school today.
Nice, yeah. All the kids love that. That's awesome, man. Good for her. Yeah. I know she's rocking them with pride too.
Oh yeah, she loves them. All right, so we have got our personal life out of the way. Oh no, you got something?
I don't know. I can come up with a beef.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. I got a lot of beefs that I could do. I can't air a lot of them on this podcast, as we talked about off air. If y'all want to know, hit me up. We'll grab a beer and talk about it. Or Mama, we'll grab a water and talk about it.
Yeah.
I guess my beef for the week is going to be, it'll kind of lead right into our next segment. Brought to you by some wonderful sponsor that's going to hop on this podcast. That's listening right now thinking, boy, I need to sponsor these old boys. Anyway, my beef is that every year for Christmas, I get my nephews tickets to a Grizz game. It's more of a Christmas present for Uncle Buckets. Like, it's me. Like, I get it. This is selfish is what it is. I love my nephews. They're my dudes. Like, I love those kids to death. I'm taking my youngest nephew for the first time this year. We're actually making a cool trip out of it. So I can only either get 4 or 6 tickets. I ended up getting 6 tickets, and my brother's going and my cousin Jim is going. So we're having a big family outing, right? But taking my nephews to the Grizz game this weekend to watch the Knicks. And so I get to see OG Anunoby. I get to see Jalen Brunson. I get to see Julius Randle. And then I get to see the hodgepodge that is the Memphis Grizzlies. No John, no Marcus Smart.
You wish you would have bought those tickets tomorrow, don't you?
Yeah, like I guarantee you that, like, because I got tickets. We're up in the upper deck because they end up having to get 6 of them. So we went up in upper deck. You know me, Drew. Usually when I buy tickets, like I'm buying good tickets, but I had to buy 6 of them. And at the time they were like 40.
And that's why I always sit in the upper decks.
Right.
I have a family of 5.
I made the mistake of just like, I want to see what those tickets are. They're like $20 cheaper per ticket.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know what? But anyway, so my beef is, leading into our Grizz talk for the night, is the fact that we're going to watch the Grizz, but no Ja, no Marcus Smart. Who else? Who knows? No
Yeah.
Steven Adams, no BC. I mean, who
Still
knows
time.
who's gonna play Saturday? Right? There's still time for I have PTSD. There's this great meme floating around, and I don't want to steal your thunder. I know you got some stuff coming up for this, but there's a great little GIF floating around on Twitter, and it's the soldier. There's bombs blowing up behind him, and he's got that 1,000-yard stare, and it kind of focuses in on him, and it says a medical update from the Memphis Grizzlies, because over the last 6 weeks, that's what it feels like. Every time the Grizz PR account tweets out, it says a medical update from the Grizz, and we're all just like,
oh God,
oh no. I get this pit in my stomach when it happens.
Who is it this time?
Who is it this time? And now it's Marcus Smart, who makes a 3-pointer with a finger that's basically hanging on by a thread, and he's now out for 6 weeks. But anyway, that's my beef for the week, and it leads right into your Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah, so our Bucks best and beef is out of the way. It's primarily when we talk about live, but yes, there is some sports to get in there. And so that's going to take us into segment 1. This segment is brought to you by
blank blank check.
Fill in the blank, local business. And so it's the Grizzlies week. We record on Thursday night, so we're going to start Friday, and we're going to talk about the Grizzlies. And it has been a week, and you're talking about mountaintops and valleys in the same week.
So can relate.
So Friday night, Buckets gives me a call. Hey, I'm coming over. Awesome. And so we go and we have a bite to eat and have a couple drinks, and we come back to the house for the late tip, 9:00 tip for Grizzlies play at the Lakers. And if there's one thing about staying up late for a 9:00 game, it's you better win, And the Grizzlies dominated the Lakers with a 14-point win at Crypto Arena. You're talking about highs of the highs. Going into this game, you've dealt with a 25-game jaw suspension. You've dealt with injuries littered, a lengthy Marcus Smart injury, jaw being suspended, assortment of other things that led to a bad start. And it finally felt like that was the time, boom, we're back. We're back. We're going to make a run. I think I even tweeted out, y'all just look out because the Grizzlies are ready to make a run. This team is good enough. We will compete. I tweeted that out Friday night. Sunday, Grizz play at Phoenix. Have a huge win. Phoenix has got all their big guys playing. You've got KD, you've got Bradley Beal, and you've got
an elite offensive team. An elite offensive
team. Playing on the road on a Sunday. The middle game of a 3-game West Coast road trip, and the Grizzlies beat them. Had a really good game, and there was no jaw. Little foreshadowing here. I told Rusty before the podcast, we're going to stay in the moment here and dissect this as we go. Jaw's in a sling, okay? And so when the Grizzlies win that game, it's okay, now you've figured out the rotations. You've got Ja, he's missed a game, but it's sore. He finished the Lakers game 2 days before, so he didn't hurt it badly if he hurt it during the Lakers game. So he's probably just resting, don't want it hanging, dangling, and just giving it some support to let it heal. But a huge win at Phoenix. Monday, we're watching the national championship game. We're going to get to that in a minute. But after halftime of the national championship game, the national championship game for Grizzlies fans ceased to exist. Because sometime in that third quarter, you get the news dropped out in the ultimate, what's it called? It's like a news dump. It's like a Friday news dump.
It's a woes bomb.
Yeah, but
like a woes
bomb. They dumped it right in the middle of a national championship game in efforts to try to, I guess, squash the outrage or squash
the severity of it.
Yeah, the headlines. But news comes out that John he has got a torn labrum and he needs season-ending shoulder surgery. And, you're talking about what was the highest of the high coming off those 2 wins against the Lakers and the Suns. This was the low.
Yeah, can I nerd out for a second here about labral injuries?
I was going to set this up for you.
Go ahead, set it up. Go ahead.
For those of you who are new listeners, my co-host here is a doctor, but not like the good paying kind. He is a doctor of physical therapy, and he deals a lot with sports injuries. So, Rusty, what say you?
So last week, I had 3 labral repairs. I had a labral repair today of a Division I athlete that came in the clinic to see me to get his shoulder back so he can play quarterback next year at a Division I college here in the state of Tennessee. Labral injuries are common.
Was it Nico?
It wasn't Nico. No, it wasn't that Division I school. It was a D1 school, but it wasn't UT. Yeah. Anyhow, HIPAA, man, I can't talk about that. Anyhow, we're gonna digress. So labral injuries are common. Like if we put, like you and I could run to the Walmart there in Ripley, the great establishment that it is, we could pick any 10 people over the age of 30, and all 10 are going to have some varying degree of a labral tear, but all 10 of them are not elite level athletes like one John Morant.
Not like us.
Right. Not like us, not like John Morant, not like Tripp. So basically what your labrum is it like when your humerus or your arm bone sits on your shoulder blade, the arm bone is a lot bigger than where it sits. Your labrum is an extra shock absorber. It creates more surface area to make your shoulder more stable. It's non-contractile tissue. So if you tear your rotator cuff, you don't have to have surgery unless it's like a complete rupture with retraction and all that kind of stuff. And some people still don't. But non-contractile tissue means it doesn't work with like volition. Like you can't contract your labrum. It also doesn't have a great blood supply. So it's not going to heal on its own. Ja most likely had what's called a slap lesion, which is a superior labral anterior to posterior tear. So what I saw today, it was from 9:30 on the clock to 2 o'clock on the clock face. Mm-hmm. And so when you get those, what it does is it creates a catch. So like when Ja would go up to shoot, his shoulder is going to freeze and it's going to catch on that labral tear. It's going to continue to fray and grind. So they have to go in there, they have to repair it. So he's going to be in a sling for probably the next 4 to 6 weeks, and then it's going to get really aggressive. Shout out to Jared, the PT for the Grizz. He's going to do a great job. He's done a great job with BC. He'll do a great job of getting Ja back. But
we're gonna go on record on this podcast celebrating the Grizzlies medical staff.
No, we're just celebrating one. We ain't celebrating all of them.
Okay.
There's a reason Campbell Clinic, I think, ain't the provider anymore. Anyway, I digress. So basically, he's got a summer of rehab ahead of him. He's going to spend a few weeks in a sling doing isometrics and kind of get it moving. You got to be careful with your arm away from your body because that increases the compressive forces inside your shoulder joint, which can fray it and cause more tearing. So he'll be kind of laying low, kind of like Steve-O did for a while, and let it kind of heal. Then it's going to get real aggressive with some overhead mobility and stuff trying to get it back. But long and short of it, Ja will be 100% and be fine by next year. His rehab will go well. It usually does when you have a labral injury, especially if there's no other tears or no other fraying or other issues in the shoulder. And so I think that we'll be good to go. Ja will bounce back better than ever. And he had surgery today. Apparently it was successful. Everything went well. And so speedy recovery to John Morant as you're recovering from the labral injury. Thanks for letting me nerd out for a minute.
Yeah. The funniest tweet I saw, and a screenshot of it was sent to me in a group message. And it really rings home for Memphians, especially anybody related to Sims Murphy Hospital, was that it says the Grizzlies medical staff is pictured here, and it's a picture of Christopher Dunch, Dr. Death, who was purposely killing his patients in
That's
surgery.
Good.
Yeah, and so it was like a soup, when you're in a dark place, dark humor is really the only thing that speaks to you. And that's what I needed.
I've also seen pictures of like the Grizz head with bandages around it, or a Grizzly on crutches. My favorite one was there was this Grizz, like a bear in a hoodie, and he's got like some beer bottles and cans sitting on it. He's sitting there. He's got a gun in his hand. Yeah, he got a gun in his hand. And said, "How do we get here?"
Yeah. I mean, if Twitter's a terrible place 99% of the time, and there's a lot of things on there that you don't need to see.
Sure.
But in times of this, the funniest people do come out.
Right.
So, but yeah, so that
we'll get to Alabama Twitter in a minute because there's been some good stuff on there too. But continue.
Yeah. My favorite one. I'm gonna hold this up to the camera, but you guys remember the Zaire Williams guy who won the autographed Zaire Williams ball at the game?
Yeah.
Like this guy.
Yep.
That guy has been bringing me life on Twitter.
And what's so sad is somebody on Reddit had photoshopped it to make him smile after Zaire had a couple really good games and we beat the Suns and we were playing well. Right. Now he's back sad.
He's back in his natural resting
Continue
state.
With your timeline.
And so that gets us to Tuesday. Tuesday, the Grizzlies have a game on the road at Dallas. And if the Grizzlies fans know anything, it's like you don't want to play that team.
No.
They kill us every single time. Luka, you cannot speed Luka up. Luka's going to play a game at his pace, and you can't stop him. However, the Grizzlies went on the road without Ja, without Steven Adams without
Jaren.
Jaren was out for precaution. And then the Mavericks were playing both Luka and Kyrie, and the Grizzlies just routed them. Start to finish, never really got close. And when it did get to like 10 at one point in the third quarter, the Grizzlies just opened it back up to 20. And Grizzlies hold on to win 120-103 in the most improbable win of the season, in my opinion.
And it's large part to Desmond Michael Bane. Like, that dude has a beef with the Mavs.
He put the team on his back.
And he does it every time we play Dallas. Like, yes, Luka's a Grizz killer. Yes, we always struggle playing at Dallas. But anytime Dez plays the Mavericks, it's war, because he grew up in Fort Worth. He went to TCU.
He went to college. He's from Indiana. He went to TCU for
TCU at Fort Worth, backyard of the Mavs. They told him they were going to draft him. They told him they were going to draft him, that you're our guy. And then they made another pick. I forget, was it
shoot.
Oh, and I had it earlier today.
Yeah.
Look it up, because I purposely looked it up, but it's been a long day. But anyway, they drafted somebody else. The Grizz took him a few picks later, and it has been a personal vendetta, and I'm here for it. Every time we play Dallas, it is his personal mission to drop buckets on them. And he had 32, 8 for 9 from the free throw line, just had an incredible stat line, a very efficient night, just absolutely cooked them.
Josh Green.
I knew it was something green.
Yeah.
I knew it was something green. But 32 points in 39 minutes, just step back three, dunk, he made a ferocious dunk that is not like Desmond Bane, only to be shown up by David Roddy catching a body.
Yeah.
Dez played out of his mind. I watched the game from start to finish, and I'm in here in this house by myself here in Martin, Tennessee. I have one friend now. Shout out to my buddy Lee. I have one friend in Martin, Tennessee. But I was here by myself. On the outside, I was hooting. On the inside, I was hollering, man, having a good time watching us beat up on them Mavs. What a great game that was.
Yeah, and it was incredible. Marcus Smart was incredible. Desmond was incredible. Vince Williams was incredible again. Zaire Williams.
Can we talk about Vince yet?
I'm still going to whisper it. Zaire Williams is playing good.
He had 14 off
Vince
the bench.
Williams is incredible. We'll get to him in a second.
But the best thing that happened that night was Xavier Tillman getting in Kyrie's head, because every time they would switch on to Kyrie, like Kyrie ended up, he had like 19 in the third. Kyrie had a great game, finished with 33. But whenever they put X on him, like they would roll and make that switch, X blocked his shot. X poked it away. X stopped him from driving, to the point that he got in Kyrie's head. And Kyrie is like, I'm sure y'all seen the video of them barking back and forth on the free throw line, where Kyrie is like, I'm built for this. I can talk trash and hoop. And he missed the free throw.
What's always a dead giveaway for me, when somebody doesn't have anything like to contribute to the argument, when they start like taunting seniority. He's like, I'm in my 13th year. I was like, all right, well, you ain't in this argument.
You ain't got nothing.
No, you ain't got nothing to say. Like,
rent free.
If you've got to say, I was here first, then you don't have an argument. You know,
it's like, my dad can beat up your dad, right? Like rent free.
You know who my daddy is? Yeah, that's that kind of argument.
And X had the best reaction on the free throw line when he was standing over there. It's a meme. The Grizz tweeted it out today, captioned this. Like, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, but Xavier Tillman, this is a pro Xavier Tillman podcast. When you need him the most, when you don't need Xavier Tillman, he sucks. When you need Xavier Tillman the most, Xavier Tillman steps up.
Love you, X.
And we'll get to
something about those Michigan State big men, man, that just the cook for the Grizz.
But the biggest thing that came out of Tuesday, because when we get to here, we got to come back to the bottom.
Always.
On a 3-point shot that he made, Marcus Smart dislocates his ring finger on his shooting hand, and he goes in. He does not even, Rusty, the video, you have to watch the video if you haven't seen it. He shoots it, holds his follow through, ball goes in, and he goes to make it looks like he goes to make the 3-point sign to celebrate at the Mavericks bench, and he looks and he's like, that ain't right.
My finger
he did not even know it was broken. And then when he saw it, he just turned and walked to the bench.
So the video is he actually dislocated on the possession before. There's where he kind of slaps at somebody. I
haven't seen that.
He makes the 3 with a bum finger, and like you said, he goes to make the 3, and then his index finger is at a weird angle, and like you said, he looks at it.
Ring finger that
ring finger. Sorry, he looks at it at a weird angle. And then immediately, like you said, they call a timeout and he walks straight to the trainer.
Yeah. And then the trainer does the thing, he puts the towel over his hand and you can tell he's about to reset it. No harm, no foul. Dislocations happen in basketball. Yeah, everybody at every age, if you've ever played basketball for any length of time, it's dislocated your finger.
I got a crooked finger from it.
Yeah. Because you catch a ball weird, you jams, and whatever.
Yeah.
No harm, no foul. It may be sore. The Grizzlies medical staff loves to take their time, like rehabbing injuries. But then, we're just kind of left. Again, I'm following the timeline here. So that takes us to Wednesday. All right. Marcus Smart just has a broke finger that's been reset. Wednesday, the Grizzlies signed Vince Williams Jr. to a 3-year, $7-point-something million contract
with a 4th-year team option.
And I thought that was wrong. I mean, what? I mean, he basically signed for the league minimum, like a veteran's minimum deal.
We got him cheap.
Yeah, I mean, really cheap deal. And they signed him early. I mean, the wildfire hadn't spread yet league-wide on Vince Williams yet. That's the reason why. Mm-hmm. And he's on a 2-way deal. So, I mean, you want to lock him up. But in that process of getting him a guaranteed deal, a roster spot had to be made.
Right.
And our man Bismack Biyombo, Grizzmack Biyombo,
a.k.a. Butterfingers.
Yeah, brick hands. Was let go. And I do not want to besmirch Bismack because
he helps us in a lot of situations.
He was offensively challenged. We knew that. He's got brick hands, but the brick hands worked out pretty well on the defensive end.
Sure.
He was incredible this weekend on the defensive end for the Grizzlies. But the roster crunch coupled with the fact that John Moran is now out for the season, and there's probably some lineups they want to check, and young guys they want to get some run, and he was the guy that got the axe. And so, but that's not the big story. The big story is Vince Williams Jr. You're talking rags to literal riches.
Yes.
The 49th pick in the 2021 draft.
Yeah. From the Virginia Commonwealth University, like VCU, smaller school, just a guy who just earned an NBA contract, right? Not based on, I mean, he's talented, don't get me wrong, but based purely on hustle. Like, that's the American dream, right? Like, he got out there and he hustled and earned that contract. Very talented basketball player, obviously, but like every big play, every big rebound or loose ball or steal or block or stop in the lanes recently has been one of two people. It's either been Marcus Smart or it's been Vince Williams Jr.
Absolutely.
And Vince has been involved in in that Laker game, man. He was huge in that game.
Yeah,
he was big the other night. He was big against the Mavs the other night. Like, it's at the right place at the right time, and it's because that kid hustles. And so, shout out to the grinders. Drew and I are grinders at our day jobs. We're grinders on this podcast with some news coming down the pipe. Like, we appreciate hustlers, right? And
Memphis appreciates the city of Memphis appreciates.
It's a blue collar town. I'm a blue collar player. I've seen a lot of, like, we've got the grind father, now we've got the grind son. Like, very much
people trying to do that with Dylan.
I know, but the difference is, like, Vince knows his role, right? Like, Dylan tried to be that main scorer, and Vince knows that's not him. He had 19 the other night I think it was 19 against the Lakers he had, which for him is a great game, but, like, he knows he's not a scorer. He's out there to hustle, make plays, make defensive stops, and just be a dude. And so shout out Vince Williams. We're very much fans of people on this podcast getting their bag. So Vince Williams, get your bag, son. Let's go.
Vince Williams did not play in the Lakers game. In the Phoenix game, in which we won by 6, he was a plus 25.
That was the game I was thinking of.
And in the Mavericks game, in which we won by 17, Vince Williams Jr. Oh, actually, he was a net 0 in that game, actually.
Yeah, it was the Suns game where he had 19.
That shows you how fickle single game plus minuses can be.
Yeah, he was plus 23, 19 in the Suns game, including 4 for 4 from the free throw line, 3 for 4 from 3, cooking off the bench.
And so the Grizzlies signed Vince Williams Jr. to a 3-year contract, team option 4th year. Could not be more excited for that because the Grizzlies really hit on him. I think it's important. Grizzlies fans and fans of teams in general love to point out the flaws of front offices, and the front office on the front offices have not gotten picks right recently. At the top end of the draft.
Right.
Bottom end of the draft, that was a hit. That was a 49th pick of the draft. Typically, those guys are two-way that you never hear about ever again.
Right.
But he hit, and they took their time. They developed him well, and he is a key contributor to this team and will only continue to be a bigger contributor as the years go by.
And we're going to find out what else we got. Like I don't want to rush the timeline. I know you got stuff coming up, but guys like Gigi, Gillard, we got guys that we're going to see what we've got with them. And I still think we're going to make.
Got with
we ain't got nothing with Gilliard, But Gigi, you never know what you got. I mean, that kid's raw, but I'm sure we'll get to this here in a minute. But I mean, there's still some moves that it can be made out there.
Yeah, and so that takes us to today. This afternoon, we find out I'm sitting at home from work with a sick baby girl. And get the Grizz PR notification because I'm a glutton for punishment. I have the Twitter notification set up for Grizz PR.
Same.
And immediately I was like, oh, this is great. This is bad.
Same.
Marcus Smart out 6 weeks with what we thought was a dislocated finger has turned into undoubtedly something. It has to be something muscular or a tendon or something in there that's gotten inflamed. You can probably shed some light on that, but he's out, and he will be reevaluated in 6 weeks. No one or medical staff. That means minimum 8 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks.
I hearken our dear listeners back to the Steven Adams saga that was January 2000, the year of our Lord, January 2023, where Steven Adams was going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks, and then in 4 weeks, and then in 6 weeks, and then he was just going to be reevaluated, and then we didn't hear nothing about it.
And here we are, January 24,
and he ain't played a lick. And so, be leery, Memphis Grizzly fans. Be leery of that. But yeah, when you dislocate your finger, there's so many things that can go wrong because there's so many tendons and ligaments in there that if one of them gets off, it's such a very intricate, and I can nerd out on this for a while, and I promise that I won't to our faithful listeners.
Probably not.
Basically, it's a very intricate pulley system, and if one of them gets off, it throws off the whole system. And what you don't want, especially on your shooting hand, is to have a pulley system that's bad because there's so much feel that goes into a basketball shot that we need that finger right. And so we know they're going to slow.
If it was his offhand, he'd probably play through it.
And here's the thing, especially at this point in the season, we ain't tanking.
You've already got the jaw news.
And so, but we ain't tanking. I talked with one of my, shout out Heath Ladd. I know you listen to this podcast. One of my bosses we ain't tanking, sir. Those guys are going to hustle. They're playing for contracts. We're going to bring up some guys like GG on some 2-way contracts, but we ain't tanking. But
you're playing for development.
But if Jaron comes to you and says, my knee is sore, he's out 2 weeks for precautions. Right. If Des says, my shoulder sore, out 2 weeks. Marcus Smart, let's slow play this thing. There's no reason to rush him back. Let's get that finger right. And maybe these younger guys can have us in a position for a playing game down the road where Marcus can help us as he gets better. Or we start making moves for the 24-25 season and we start playing towards that. But we ain't tanking. These dudes are not going to tank. I can guarantee. I watched that Mavericks game. We're playing the Clippers tomorrow night. We're removed a little bit from those Grizz Clipper games, but that's
still hate James Harden.
I still hate James Harden. I
still hate James Harden.
Chris Paul is one of the few people on this planet. I'm a lovable guy. I'm a big teddy bear, but I hate Chris Paul. And it's because of those games. And I cannot wait tomorrow night.
You hear the Stephen A clip talking about Jason Whitlock yesterday?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, he just went off. If you just gave Rusty a mic, he would that's the kind of talk he would have about Chris Paul. And it's the talk I would have about James Harden. I hate zero people on this planet. I've been done dirty even in the last couple of months. I've been done dirty, and I hate no one except Chris Paul. Yeah. But I hope tomorrow night I can tweet out my favorite thing to tweet when we play the Clippers is whoop that clip over and over again. And so I hope we can tweet it out. But all that to say, these dudes ain't tanking, man. We're playing for pride. We're playing for contracts. And I feel I trust in Kleiman that I feel like we have a move coming down the pipe. I do too, but anyway. I don't know. We're going to see. I hope that they just doesn't stall the process out. I hope that, and they will. It's the Grizzlies culture. The Grizzlies. In my years of playing, I started my fandom in probably 11 or 12 with the Grit and Grind Grizzlies. In my lifetime, we have not actively tanked, except for one time when we got Jaren Jackson Jr. We could have had, the number one pick. It ended up being great that we fell to 4. But you had the worst record in the league. You played 28 roster players that year.
We
had
played
the
some
worst
dudes.
record in the league, and then you think we went 22-60.
Yeah.
And you got the 4th pick in the draft. And then the next year, you everything hits the fan. Fizdale blows up. You trade Mark. You trade TA don't come back. No Zebo. And then you have DeLon Wright come in, and you have just assortment of guys. And instead of actively tanking, this was the first year of Kleiman. Instead of actively tanking, they really played it out and played for just pride. Basically, because
pride.
a lot of those guys never came back. Like DeLon Wright left. I mean, and we were rewarded. The basketball gods rewarded us we had the 8th or 9th best lottery odds, and we ended up with 2 and got John Morant.
Drew and I were texting some all caps text that night.
Oh yeah, I was in my apartment in Jackson, Mississippi, on a work rotation while I was in college. When we won the lot,
I stayed at that apartment.
Won the lottery. Yeah, and no, this was a different one. But anyways, but yes, so it was. I believe that the Grizzlies go about this the right way. It's about development, and you can't. I hate trying to lose. I hate the culture it builds. You look at the teams that are routinely the worst teams in the league. You look up until recently, the Sacramento Kings, always in the top of the lottery. The Charlotte Hornets, the Pistons. They have a culture of tanking. The Houston Rockets, up until this year, have a culture of tanking to try to get number 1 picks, and it results in players that are unhappy or worse, become complacent in losing.
100%.
And so, I think the Grizzlies will play this out the correct way.
Right now, we're slated to be the 6th overall pick, and so that's still a great pick. I don't think
you can really try this year and end up at 6 to 10. Really play it out. This team is not good enough to play above 500 foot basketball the rest of the year.
No, there's a very, very, very small chance we make that play-in
especially not
game.
Without
Marcus. Especially now we know Ja's not there, but definitely no Marcus. But like, the basketball gods reward you with that. It was a weak draft the year we got Desmond Bane, and so this year is projected as a very weak draft.
He failed to us,
right?
30.
But this is a very weak draft. Apparently, there's a couple guys that are going to be at the top after that. Outside of that, all the prognosticators and quote unquote experts are calling it a weak draft. We got Desmond Bane in that. But then
keep in mind that year we got 4th. The first 2 picks were DeAndre Ayton and Marvin Bagley.
Right, and so
and then Luka.
Right. And then the same with like Zion has missed a ton of basketball being hurt, and we got John Morant, who's been.
We can do a whole podcast about how we won that lottery because we did get the number 1 pick.
Because need I remind our faithful listeners that we have wasted a draft pick on one Hasheem Thabit, aka the Bust, and so. Again, Drew, like these guys are going to hustle. They're going to play hard. The Vince Williams, obviously, those are hustle kids, right? And they're not good. They're going to go out there with that pride on their shoulder. They're going to play for the city of Memphis. They're going to play for those dudes beside them. And we're not going to be a great basketball team, but we're going to be a fun watch because we're going to hustle. We're going to play hard.
And me and you, we're in it one way or the other.
I mean, that's it. I am 10 toes down for these Memphis Grizzlies, and I always will be watching them hustle and grind out the rest of this year.
So to put a bow on this is the last thought I had, which would really just put the nail in the coffin in my spirits.
Hammer, nail, coffin.
Yeah, the last 3 games for Jaren Jackson Jr., 27 points per game, 54% from 3, 7.5 rebounds, and 3 blocks per game the last 3. Marcus Smart's last 3 games, 27 points per game, 45% from 3, 4 rebounds, and 2 steals a game.
If you're watching on YouTube, here it comes. It's like.
So we have another huge topic to get to. So that's going to put a bow on the Grizzlies today. We're going to take our first ad break of the day. Local businesses.
This is your time to shine.
We're going to take a 5-second silence here, and you just multiply it by 3, and that could be your 15 to 30-second time slot. That could be yours for a small fee. All right. And we're back with the 2 Bucks Sports podcast.
Listen, if y'all are listening at this point, buckle up because we've been doing really good. I want to give credit where credit's due. Shout out to myself and my esteemed colleague here. We've been doing really good at keeping these podcasts about an hour 10. Tonight ain't it. We got a lot to say tonight, so y'all hang on.
So, do you have before Ja ruined the national championship game, there was a college football national championship game Monday night, in which Michigan just really laid the wood to Washington and was really depressed. I mean, that game was no fun to watch. It's 2 years in a row where we've had amazing semifinal games, but the championship game was a dud.
Yeah.
Did you leave that game with any sort of thought as to the future? I think both of these teams are very much in the air going into next season due to coaches. Washington due to going into a new conference. I mean, did you leave with any thoughts?
Yeah, so Jim Harbaugh is good as gone. He's going to the NFL. Like, all signs are pointing towards that. Michael Penix is not coming back. The quarterback of the future is Will Rogers. Sorry, Husky fans. If y'all need to, any of y'all listening, y'all hit me up on Twitter. Rusty
Will Rogers
Buckets.
is good if he's healthy, but he's not great.
But he's not great. So hit me up, Rusty_Buckets_ on Twitter. Same on Instagram. Y'all hit me up if y'all got questions about Will Rogers. You know, Drew, like, it made me excited for next year because, like, I'm gonna be honest, it was a dud. And I all day long at work, people were asking me, they know about our podcast, like, who are y'all picking? And I'm like, I want Washington to win, but Michigan's going to win. Their defensive line was way too good, and it proved that all night. You know, they rushed Penix all night long. Oh, man, I was about to pronounce his last name right, but I'm not going to now. That receiver.
You give it a shot.
Rome is his first name.
Or no, what's the last name?
Duzme. See, I told you I was going to butcher.
Welcome to the Duplex Sports Podcast. Rusty is talking about Rome Odunze.
Dude, I was so close. I was one letter off, man. Yeah. One letter off. Come on. I called the Raptors coach Nick Nolte. Come on, give me some credit here. I was close.
Got that.
I had a patient, without giving away too much, was related to somebody on one of those teams, and he asked me kind of the same, and I was like, look, man, Michigan's going to dominate this game. But what it does is it makes me excited for the future for next year, because I'm just going to tell you right now, like, had it been the 12-team playoff this year, Georgia would have been your national champs. Georgia was the best team in football. Like, they lost to Alabama, but in a 12-team playoff, they're coming out with a national championship. Absolutely. Georgia wins the national championship if this had been next year. So it makes me excited for that, because you got teams like Georgia. Who knows what Missouri could have done? Missouri played really, really well. We ain't talking about that other team. Who knows what some of these teams could have done?
You're talking about the other 11-win team in the SEC?
T-Sun? You don't know. So, like, it makes me excited for next year. It does, because, like, it was
I can't wait for you to watch us in the playoff.
It was Missouri, Georgia. It was crappy. It was a crappy national championship game. I quit watching and started keeping up with the Grizz after that. But, like,
luckily the power went out to 1/3 of Tip Electric system about the fourth quarter.
So
I worked for 3 hours.
A quick little tattletale on my co-host here. I'm calling him because I get up every day at 5 o'clock to go to the gym, and so I've been calling him at 5:05 and just saying wake up call, and then he goes back to bed, and he texts me at like midnight and was like,
just did that once, okay?
Yeah, no, he did. Again, credit where credit's due. He's been getting up most mornings. But he texted me like midnight and said, hey, don't call me tomorrow. I'm going to do it Wednesday to make it up, because he was going out being a Power Ranger. But I'm a quick bow on it. It does make me excited for next year, because, like, they got it right with having the semifinals. But, like, and Washington didn't have a chance, man. Michigan was too good. But next year in a 12-team playoff, you give a team like Georgia an opportunity. Right. Georgia's running the table and winning the national championship this year. There's no doubt in my mind. They three-peat.
No, I agree with you.
100%. So, it you know.
But that is the stakes
that excited.
I can make an argument that those stakes being as high as they were for, I mean, you got 13 games. If you lose one, you're out. I mean, those stakes make the regular season and conference championship valuable. You don't have those stakes anymore. Ole Miss as a 2-loss team would have been in the playoff this year.
Right. And I get that. Like the exclusivity.
There is a little trade-off.
It's like the VIP section of the club. It's like a black card, right? Like,
what's that like?
I don't know. Look at me, dog. Do I look like somebody that's getting the VIP section of the club? But, like, the exclusivity is what makes it great. Right. Next year it opens up a little bit more, but it does give teams like Georgia redemption, because they didn't lose until the SEC championship game, right? They ran the table to the end. And so a team like that maybe doesn't need to be as punished, for lack of a better word, for losing late to an Alabama team that just had a great game. And Alabama's always showed up at big moments, you know?
And honestly, I look forward to the fact that Ole Miss, this year, they lost to, on the road, at Alabama and on the road at Georgia. Like, I don't feel like Ole Miss should have been punished either, but that's just kind of how it is when you've got a 14 playoff.
Well, next year we got 12, and so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So
if you still have your head coach next year.
Yeah, that gets us to the biggest news. John Morant news is the biggest news in the NBA and to Grizzlies fans, but to a whole sport.
Yeah.
Nick Saban retiring yesterday was undoubtedly, I gasped. And my wife was like, he's 72 years old. Why are you surprised? I'm like, I don't know. I just thought he'd be there forever,
So my brother has a friend that's a insider at Alabama. All y'all know my family. Unfortunately, they are all Alabama fans. Don't hold that against them or me.
Rusty's granddaddy played at Alabama, right?
That's it. Like, yeah, his email was always Bama 56BB, like big Alabama fan. Like, I liked Alabama. Like, some of my favorite childhood memories are watching Alabama football games with my granddad while listening to Eli Gold on the radio because the people on TV don't know what they're talking about. That man hated Vern Lundquist and Gary Daniels with a passion.
Oh, it looks kind of like Vern Lundquist.
Who? My granddad?
Oh, no, I thought you were talking about Eli Gold.
I was like, you're talking about Jack K? Hang on now.
No,
nobody smirches.
I never met your granddaddy.
R.I.P. Jack K. Witten. But yeah, so like some of my favorite memories. Anyway, Clark has an insider there and was talking about like what is coming out. It's kind of trickling out. Is Miss Terry, Coach Saban's wife, is dealing with dementia and it's not going well. It's progressing kind of rapidly.
He refuted that today. I don't know if you saw that or not.
He did, but like at the same time, like.
At the same time, you're 72 years old and your wife, I don't know how old Miss Terry is, but I'm assuming she's around the same age. You know that you don't want.
And you
don't want to lose out on your functioning years.
Right. And here's what makes me kind of refute what he said today was like, just like 3 days ago, he was trying to hire a new defensive coordinator. 2 days ago, he's trying to hire a new special teams coordinator. He's still going to stay on board. He's getting an office upstairs. He's still calling recruits. He's still going to be intricately involved in it, which may or may not be a good thing. I don't know. But everything coming out is like he's stepping back for some personal reasons. And so I don't know that he probably will never coach again. Of course, it's the 1 year that freaking Mississippi State ain't playing Alabama.
I was going to make that point.
It's been growing.
So frustrating.
It is. It's growing on Mississippi State Twitter. It's called the Jeff Levy effect, right? Like he didn't want to have to play Jeff Levy is what it was. But like it's just a joke, right? But again, I don't know that we'll ever see a college coach with that success and that command over a program in our lifetime.
Too many variables.
In my kids, I don't know. I'm 36. I may not have kids. We'll see how that goes. But like, I don't know what that looks like going forward. But Drew, we'll never see like Bear Bryant was the previous one. There were some coaches like Newt Rockne, those guys. But like Nick Saban is our generation's one of one.
And it's like there was the initial jubilation. I mean, let's be real. And I mean, as a fan of a team that formerly competed in the SEC West, like I can count of at least 3 times where Ole Miss would have been in Atlanta competing for the SEC championship if it wasn't for Nick Saban and that Alabama team. 2 of the 3 times, Ole Miss had beaten Alabama and did not get to Atlanta.
Right.
And so that was like, okay, good, we have a shot. And then I remembered, well, crap, there's not even divisions anymore. Like, there is no East and West anymore. Ole Miss does not even play Alabama next year.
Right.
So you're telling me, like, now I want to play them.
Right.
Now Ole Miss is at the highest point of its franchise or college, or of its football team ever. This is the peak. So the fact that I don't have to go up against Alabama in the SEC West anymore would have been like, nectar from the god. Instead, we don't even play them.
Right. So I have a question.
Worse, man.
I know we're gonna get to this here in a second, but like if 0 is completely calm, I'm gonna sleep like a baby, and 10 is threat level midnight, full on panic, how do you rate your feeling right now that Dan Lanning has turned the job down?
Yeah. So I was going to start from the top. As soon as the report came out yesterday, Dan Lanning's name was mentioned. Dan Lanning,
as it should have been,
was. Obviously, I felt like it was a unanimous first choice for even Alabama fans.
And he was a grad assistant under Saban, and Saban called him after he'd already interviewed with Georgia and was taking the DC job there. Right. So like he has Alabama ties.
Right. And so everybody thought that Dan Lanning, and rightfully so, should have been the first call. It's the first call I would have made.
100%.
I told you as a Mississippi State fan, call Dan Lanning. What the heck?
Make him say no.
And so so My fear at that point was, does Oregon attract Lane Kiffin? What does Lane think about Oregon? I know Nike's there. We've talked about Oregon before.
It's a sexy job.
When we talked about Dan Lanning possibly taking the A&M job. Turns out that was Dan Lanning had made his decision. It was so funny seeing him talking to was it McAfee today when he was saying what were you doing yesterday when everybody said you were interviewing in Alabama? And he said, well, I was on the couch with my son watching the Jason Bourne movies. And
that video he released today on Twitter was fire. We're finishers. Sorry.
If you were going to talk about how to twist a coaching rumor into a recruiting pitch, he just wrote the textbook.
We're finishers, not quitters.
Well, to say one quote was, lots of people start things, we finish things. Great quote. The other one was, if you're scared your coach is going to leave, come to Oregon. And I was like, oh my God. If Lane Kiffin said that, I'd be buck naked running the streets. If you're scared that your coach is going to leave, come to Oregon. Oh man,
I was just about to say that line is how you shut down a rumor, and nobody's done it like Dan Lanning. And when he said that, I'm like, man. I'm at the clinic, I'm like,
finish it with a cigar,
I'm like tearing my shirt, let's go.
I love Dan Lanning.
He went from here to here in my book.
An absolute G. To open up. Because Dan Lanning's in Tuscaloosa. Dan Lanning is meeting with Nick Saban and whatever their AD's name is. I just blanked on Greg Byrne. And for the first line to be, to have a video locked and loaded, ready to go that said,
ready to fire the thing off. That was in the drafts, ready to go.
Saying if you're scared your coach is leaving, come to Oregon. I was like, you got to think Oregon fans everywhere were just
flex on it,
shooting fireworks. Man, what a moment. What a video.
That's it, man. weed's legal out there. They're getting high as a kite, getting fired up in Oregon, Eugene.
It has come out. I have seen in regards to Lane Kiffin, early this morning, probably the worst quarterback to win a national championship at Alabama, Greg McElroy, came out and said that Lane to Alabama is not happening. I have often thought that because whereas it was kind of a sideshow, he was a sideshow when he was the OC under Saban at Alabama. Inside that program, he really seemed to burn a lot of bridges. And you can resurrect your career elsewhere, but it takes an extra level of resurrection to go back to where you burned the bridges. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's never been Alabama that scared me with Lane. It's who Alabama hires wanting Lane. So that puts us where we're at now. You asked me 0 to threat level midnight. I'm at about a 50-50. I'm definitely nervous. And it totally hinges on who he hires. So if you play out the possible suspects that's being let out right now, seems like the highest odds right now is Mike Norvell. Do you think that Lane Kiffin's interested by Florida State? I think Florida, the state of Florida is, I'm going to get to, the state of Florida is desirable, but Florida State is in the middle of suing their conference. And during this podcast, did you just see this?
Yeah. Well, it came out right before we started about the sanctions.
Yeah. So it seems that the NCAA, according to Ross Dellinger, is expected to levy unprecedented penalties for NIL-related violations committed by Florida State, including a 3-game suspension for an assistant coach and disassociation from its booster collective and a boot. So that's big. And so that puts me at that.
Norvell's off the list. Norvell's off the list.
Well, I don't think Norvell's off the list. I think Florida State's off the list for Lane. I don't know that Lane would leave Ole Miss right now for Florida State, given that situation.
And I don't think that Alabama's going to call a coach that's in the middle of a scandal like that.
Fair.
I don't think so.
All right. So next, Kalen DeBoer. Am I scared Lane goes to Washington? Not particularly.
It's not a bad gig.
It's not a bad gig, but it's the Pacific Northwest. Joey Freshwater, I have a hard time. And keep in mind what he has built here, what he just did this offseason from Egg Bowl to now, what he's accomplished at Ole Miss. And Ole Miss, if they've done one thing right, this is not an Ole Miss podcast tonight, but this is the one thing I'm going to say about it. if Ole Miss has done one thing right this offseason, it has been showing Lane that we are with you. 100%.
Yeah.
Open checkbook. We support Lane Kiffin, and you have the keys to the kingdom of this of the football team, but also the whole freaking athletic budget is at your disposal. He's not going to get that just coming in anywhere.
Right. So I've been poking the bear today, asking you about Lane Kiffin, asking you tonight. Based on the offseason that he's had, the talent he has in Oxford, even though his ego is big enough to fill up Bryant Denny, I don't think he's going to take that Alabama job simply because the talent they have coming to Oxford. I think what will happen if he's smart, you never want to be the man that follows the man, right? Like
that is the biggest demerit to the Alabama job right now.
Right. Shout out Ric Flair. Like, yes, to be the man, you have to beat the man, but you never want to be the man that follows the man, right? And so, like, you let there be some cannon fodder, right? So Bear Bryant went to, there was a couple coaches. There was Curry. There was a couple coaches there in the 80s before Gene Stallings got there and won a national championship. You never want to be the guy. There's a helicopter coming over right now, shaking this entire old house. I don't know if y'all heard that. Holy smokes. Yeah. Like, I'm vibrating in my chair. Wow. Anyway, like, you never want to be that guy, right? You don't want to be the Bill Currys of the world. You want to be the Gene Stallings, right? And so, like, you give them a hire. You let them have some cannon fodder with, be it, Mike Norvell or Caleb DeBoer, whoever that might be. Then Lane Kiffin goes to Tuscaloosa. But based on the talent he has coming to Oxford, I said this today, if he's smart, and Lane Kiffin is, his ego is big, but he's also a smart dude. He stays in Oxford and rides out next year.
Take advantage of Alabama being down, the possibility of Alabama being down.
And go get an SEC championship for Ole Miss. Go see what you can do in a year that Alabama's going to be down. And you don't want that job because and this is the problem, like, you're getting, like, thrown into the deep end. Like, you're going to be treading water from day one because you know that an 8-4 and a 9-3 season gets you fired at Alabama. Right. You go 8-4, 9-3 every year at Ole Miss, you're going to keep your job. But you go to Alabama and you win 9 games consistently, that ain't good enough because the expectation is now so high. So you want a guy that's going to bring that down a little bit, and then I'll shut up. You'll bring that down a little bit, then you go to Tuscaloosa.
The only thing I kind of balk at is I believe that 99% of successful coaches in sports have egos. I believe you have to have an ego. And I believe that 90% of coaches believe that given the system, because that's what's always won games at Alabama, it's the system.
Right.
The infrastructure that before NIL allowed them to get all the players. There was an underground tunnel system that was a well-oiled machine. Now NIL has kind of smoothed it out.
Right.
But most coaches believe that if you have the system there, I could be Nick Saban.
Right.
Most of them are wrong, but they believe that.
Sure.
And so I do believe you are 100% correct. If it were me, I'm not following Nick Saban. However, most coaches, I believe, if you put truth serum to them, that they would be like, yeah, I could do it.
I mean, 100%. It ain't just
Lane. That's unlike most programs. I always talk crap about Florida. They're 2 incredible head coaches away from just being mediocre. Bottom dwellers, mediocre. Alabama they have won a national championship with 3 different coaches. LSU has won a national championship with their last 3 coaches. Those 2 schools, I believe any good coach can win there.
Yeah.
Now, can you win 7 titles in 19 years? Probably not. 6 titles in 19 years? No, you can't.
17 years.
You can be, or 17 years. It just makes it more incredible. But there's not a coach out there that don't think if they can win in Alabama. And I believe if Lane Kiffin is offered the Alabama job, he will take it. I do believe that 100%.
I mean, why not? There's big money. Obviously, the pockets are deep. There's a ton of funny money in the state of Alabama. Auburn has always been known to get that kind of money. Alabama certainly can. They're going to be buying car washes and snow cone shacks in the hood to fund these kids coming. And it's just now NIL has made that above board, right? So now they can do it legally.
So who do you think, if you had to put your money on somebody right now, who do you think the coach at Alabama is?
I don't know, honestly, because, like, Sark ain't leaving Texas. Kirby Smart ain't leaving Georgia. Lane Kiffin ain't leaving Ole Miss. That leaves you with a guy like Caleb DeVore. That's a great, great name that might come up. Mike Norvell.
Yep.
Yeah, that's close enough. Norvell may or may not take that job, right? Like, My brother sent in a group chat.
Who does he want? He's a diehard Bammer. Who does he want?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know who he wants. We talked about some other stuff. Like my cousin Clint, God bless him. If you're listening to this podcast, then get your together, man. Anyway, we had more important things to deal with tonight around my daddy who's sitting at his house with no groceries. But I digress. Don't get me started.
I'm not.
Anyway, a guy like that, like Clark said, that there's a flight chartered from Athens to Tuscaloosa. There's all these rumors, right?
No way.
There's no way. I said the only person that would be interviewing from Georgia would be Will Muschamp.
Now that's a name that's on the list. I mean,
that's a name on the list. Dabo Swinney is another name that's on the list.
There's no way.
I think Dabo gets that job pre-NIL, but Jesus is his NIL, and that ain't gonna work in Tuscaloosa.
In Jesus' name, image, and likeness.
Yeah. I love that. That's great, but that ain't gonna work in Tuscaloosa. I love the message
you're preaching.
That ain't working in Tuscaloosa. Yeah. That ain't working in the SEC. That might work in Clemson, South Carolina. It ain't working in the SEC. So honestly, like now that these cats have turned it down, I don't know. And what world are we living in? It's the NIL world, but what world are we living in where the Oregon football coach is turning down the Alabama job?
I think that's a personality trait of his. I think that's something, and I feel like it's something that's honestly refreshing about this industry and coaching this industry, where
Today,
you will say anything to get a player on campus, but then you will leave. Yeah. Like he is holding himself. Like I hope this is what he's doing. I hope that he is saying, "I've got to practice what I'm preaching," and if so, man, he is my second favorite football coach, and there's not a close thing.
Just about to say. Nick Saban is infamous for saying, I am not leaving the Miami Dolphins, only to get on a plane the next day and go to like there's
Tommy Tuberville you were gonna have to carry him out of Oxford in a pine box. I mean,
I don't hold this against me, faithful listeners. I got smart, went to Mississippi State, but Dennis Franchione said we're all pulling on the road, we're pulling the same direction, and then got on a plane after that speech to College Station and went to A&M. Like there are a ton of smoke screens out there. Right. Like Drew, like it could
lots
be
of agents. Yeah,
that's it. It's agent speak. It's coach speak. Like a lot of coaches are going to use this job like to get more money. Maybe Dan Lanning or Lane Kiffin might pull some more money.
Tell you something. Right? There's no richer man in the world right now than Jimmy Sexton.
That's it, man. That's it. I don't know. I don't know. There's so many names still floating out there. I think
the only home run hire for them is one of two or three people. I believe it's a home run if you get Mike Norvell. I think it's a home run if you get Sark, and I think it's a home run if you let water under the bridge and hire Lane.
So I don't know if you saw this, but they closed the betting books last night on the Alabama head coaching position. They reopened them about 4 hours ago when Dan Lanning and all that stuff kind of came out. They kind of reopened them a little bit, but they had shut it down because
not see this.
I don't know that Nick Saban leaves that job without handpicking his successor, and maybe it was Dan Lanning, and maybe he got the wool pulled over him, and Saban didn't get his man. But right now on FanDuel, sorry, Aaron Timbiran, this is from FanDuel, not DraftKings, but FanDuel Sportsbook right now. Well, this is as of 3 hours ago. Your leading candidates odds are plus 200 for Mike Norvell, plus 300 for Dabo. Kalen DeBoer is also plus 300. Lane Kiffin is plus 6. D'Amico Ryans. And I think, honestly, if the Texans didn't make the playoffs, D'Amico has a better shot. He's a favorite son.
He's going to be like coach of the year.
I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying if they didn't make the playoffs, D'Amico's a favorite son. I went to his football camp at Northeast there in Boonville, Mississippi. Just a great, great guy. And then James Franklin is at plus 4,000. So it goes way up from there. But your leading candidates are Norvell, Dabo, Kalen DeBoer, Lane Kiffin, and D'Amico Ryans. It's probably going to be one of those dudes. I don't think it's going to be Dabo. I don't think it's going to be Lane Kiffin. So that leaves you with D'Amico, who I also don't think it's going to be. Then it's going to come down to Kalen DeBoer and Mike Norvell.
Yeah, and I think either one of those would be a hit.
That'd be a great hire.
If they tried to hire Dabo, they would have a big Greg Schiano, Tennessee situation on their hands. And we all know how that turned out just to be an absolute crap show, to levels that only Tennessee can take a crap show. So, yeah, I mean, that's where Alabama is right now. We're recording this podcast at almost 8 o'clock Thursday, January 11th. Undoubtedly, as soon as we stop recording, news will break. I saw where somebody within the Alabama beat or some journalist that covers it said that Alabama was hoping to have this hire done by this weekend. So it's very likely that by the time you hear this podcast, an announcement has been made. But right here, January 11th at 8:00 p.m. Central Standard Time, God's time zone. That's our thoughts on it. I think there's 3 or 4 guys that could be an absolute hit there. Dabo is not one of them. You talk Greg Schiano levels meltdown.
100%. Speaking of, it's 8:00 in the God's time zone here in the Central Zone. I realized I ain't ate supper yet, so I had to step back and get a snack. I'm sitting here hungry. Anyway,
you telling me you just walked away from this podcast to get a bite to eat because you can't wait 20 minutes?
I got a granola bar, dude. I'm starving, man. I hadn't ate since lunchtime. And even at lunchtime, I was busy today. I had a pack of tuna and some peanuts. That's all I had for eating.
My goodness, you're poor.
I'm fat.
Nobody
got to eat.
Nobody.
Continue.
Buck's beef. If you eat shrink wrap fish on a regular basis or fish out of a can on a regular basis, then you have no responsibility to your life at all. Like
my lunch today was 2 packs of the ranch flavored tuna and a handful of peanuts. Cause that's all I had time for, dude. I've been busy in a 1-arm bricklayer today.
Yeah. You've said that on this podcast, like 5 weeks running. You're going to have to come up with something different.
I've said that's like the second time I've said it.
No, you said it like 2 times last week.
Whatever.
Anyways, but if you eat fish, which is it's known for spoiling quickly, and if you eat it out of a vacuum sealed bag, then you deserve whatever health effects come with it.
I just want to point out the dedication of this podcast that I walked home from
you
work.
Can't eat it if you're pregnant because it's high in mercury, which is poisonous.
Listen, I don't care about no mercury. I ain't choking no baby over
fish
here.
Meat out of a vacuum sealed bag that's good for years.
Look, I may look like I'm toting a baby over here, but I ain't. And so I want our listeners to know that I am powering through. I walked straight home from work and hopped on this podcast. I could be here with y'all tonight.
You're acting like a 1940s parent, I walk to school uphill both ways. Like
no, I choose to walk to work.
Blocks. Yeah.
This is a 6-minute walk. It's
what
6
you
minutes.
said to me. Oh,
6 minutes.
I digress.
That
is
6 minutes.
Exercise.
This is a Jordan
2
flu
minutes,
game.
It's a lot.
This is a Jordan flu game type performance. I'm hungry. I've had a rough week, 3 weeks, and I'm here with our listeners. Let's go. Next topic.
Let's celebrate Rusty for having a job. Okay.
Next topic.
The next departure in coaches was far less surprising, and it was a departure for a different reason. But 6-time Super Bowl winning head coach Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots believe the wording was mutually agreed to part ways, which means
is it ever mutual though?
Let's be nice about this divorce.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's it.
And so Belichick, who never really figured things out post Tom Brady, is asked he's asked to leave politely. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like he will be a head coach again in the National Football League this coming up season.
Yep.
So shocked? Were you shocked about that?
No, honestly, no. This has been in the works for a couple of seasons now. Mac Jones being your quarterback doesn't help. I'm not shocked, man. I'm not. Football's passing guys like Bill Belichick by. Very, very old school. Shout out Braves. We'll talk about him in a minute. I got a lot of things to say about my Tennessee Titans, but football's passing Belichick by. He's not an analytics guy. He's,
feel of the game.
Right. Great interview today when he popped up on his press conference and said, "There haven't been this many cameras here since we assigned Tim Tebow," which was hilarious, especially from him. Yeah. But no, I'm not shocked, man. It's like football is moving the direction of analytics. I was talking about this today with a couple people, like
almost to a fault.
Right, like the Braves, the Belichicks of the world, the Nick Sabans are getting kind of left in the Stone Age. We're going more of the Sean McVay, Lane Kiffin, Kyle Shanahan analytics type football. That's where we're heading. And Belichick, it just couldn't keep up with that. And so,
and Belichick was
another GOAT coach,
oh, absolutely.
Great winner.
The best coaches of college, the best college coach, the best NFL coach of all time.
I mean, it is. And there's been so many videos of the two of them together in Cleveland, and these guys came up cutting their teeth together. And so it's only fitting that they go out at the same time. But
yeah,
I've got we got a lot of listeners that are in Boston that are big Pats fans. We're sorry about y'all's loss, but like football's passing him by, and and there's plenty of young up and comers that'll be your next head coach.
That's it's a real changing of the guard. Belichick was always great at one thing, and it was putting a team around Tom Brady, and he was a great defensive mind. Like Belichick deserves every single bit of credit he's gotten, and I hope that history doesn't look back on him as being a Brady product, a product of Tom Brady, because Tom Brady did go and win a Super Bowl with Bruce Arians in Tampa Bay, and Bill Belichick has not done anything. But what it's a tale as old as time, and it's more important now than ever, is it don't matter if it's college or pros. If you don't have a quarterback, then you're not going to win. And it's the one area that Bill has not been able to find a role, a quarterback that can play that role for him. And you can't ask anybody to be Tom Brady, but he hasn't found anybody that can complete a forward pass either. He was so good at finding these late round guys, diamonds in the rough, your Wes Welkers, your Danny Amendolas, your what's the best one of the three wide receivers that I'm
Wes Welker?
No.
Amendola. Julian Edelman.
Julian Edelman, Gronk, like all these guys, the defensive players that it's kind of the Miami Heat thing. A report came out the other day that said, nobody wants anybody that the Heat are willing to let go of because they are a product of Heat culture. It was the same thing with the Spurs.
Hey, real quick sidebar, and I know this is completely derailing us, but did you see what the Miami Heat did for Eric Spoelstra? Have you seen that on Twitter?
Yes.
He's just a total bro move. They waited until his divorce was final to then give him the $120 million extension. So shout out Miami Heat.
$13 million a year.
Let's go. Pat Riley, shout out.
Pat Riley, I'm sure, has been through a few divorce attorney proceedings.
I can appreciate that.
So, but yeah, and so he's done great at running a system that allows players to thrive in it. But that doesn't even matter. You think 2 years ago they had the best defensive football, and I don't know if they barely made the playoffs or missed it altogether. But if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a good football team.
And again, that parlays right into our next topic. Yep. Tennessee Titans letting Mike Vrabel go. I got a lot of thoughts about that. Personally, I love Vrabes. He's one of the boys. Been on Bussin' with the Boys, one of their best episodes when Vrabes was on there talking with Taylor Lewan and Will Compton.
That's the one where he said he would cut his nuts off if he.
Yeah, 100%. Want to win a Super Bowl? 100%. Listen, that one and the Julian Edelman episode are two of my favorite podcasts of all time. Anyway, I digress. Letting Vrabes go I've got mixed emotions. It's bittersweet. I am a fan of Mike Vrabel. He's a dude. He's a football guy. Great football coach. Great motivator. Listen. We've had one of the worst offensive lines in football for the last 3 or 4 years running, and Derrick Henry still led the league in rushing over the last 2 years. Quarterback questions, right? Tannehill was downhill, awful. Mayonnaise boy ain't it? Like, he's shown signs of greatness. He's also shown exactly what he is. Right.
If only there were signs that he was neurotic.
Right. It makes he makes terrible decisions. Like, he eats bananas.
He ate mayonnaise in his coffee, you would have known he was an idiot.
And he eats bananas with the peels on, man. Like, he doesn't even peel a banana. Who does that?
Like, if only there were signs.
Right. And he can't read a defense. He's the same dude he was at Kentucky. He trusts his arm, but he ain't Brett Favre, right? Like, I saw a funny meme the other day. It was like, I would hate to be the first guy to eat a banana. I'd rather be the second guy that eats a banana, right?
It's like the whole how'd you know that milk came out of there?
Yeah, 100%.
What were you doing to that cow?
Right. I love Vrabes. I hated to see him go. Right. We've been one of them. Like, it's funny how my professional sports teams, like the Grizz and the Titans, are bit by the injury bug left and right, and just can't stay healthy. Can't put a team out there. So it wasn't all Vrabes' fault. Vrabes kind of did himself dirty when he was inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame. A lot of rumors are circulating that was when he kind of rubbed himself wrong with the ownership of the Titans and Amy, the owner of the Titans, where he said, I hope to be the Patriots coach one day. Like, there were some things that were said. Yeah, that was last year. And I don't know how much that played into it, but there were some rumors that it did. Either way, football is passing him by. Right. There's been turnover. Him and the GM were not jiving. There was a lot of things going on there. Rand Carthen was very much an analytics guy. Vrabes is very much a old school football guy. Regardless,
it felt to me that Braves wanted to be Bill Belichick. And the report came out when they decided to part ways that because of probably partly because he didn't trust Rand Carthon and his the way he ran things, he wanted more of a say in personnel, kind of the way that Bill Belichick had, full control of that team.
And clearly he hadn't had it because he said AJ Brown is a Titan today and will be a Titan forever.
I would have left. I'd have left Tennessee right then.
2 days later, he gets traded and he storms out of the draft room. But if I'm Braves, I don't take that Patriots job. I wait for Ryan Day to get canned at Ohio State and I go coach there. But
no,
anyway.
I mean, I would hope that they would. Braves probably knew that Belichick was gone.
Sure,
and so
he'll probably take that job. But like if I'm him, I'm waiting on Ohio State. BB, what's up, buddy? If you're watching on YouTube, one of our favorite listeners there, Braxton's checking in. What's up, buddy? Love those PJs, man.
Hey, what's up?
What's up?
There he is. What's up, buddy? There's a lot of names that are popping up for the Titans. Titans' next head coach, right? They've requested permission to speak to the Cincinnati Bengals OC and Brian Callahan. Detroit Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn. Also, their offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, which is a name that's popping up a lot. That's a very popular name for a lot of jobs. Is Ben Johnson from Detroit. New York Giants OC Mike Kafka, DC from Baltimore Mike McDonald. The one I'm excited about is the Raiders interim coach Antonio Pierce. Man, I'd love for him to be a Titan.
Surely they're going to have him locked up, right?
But this is the Raiders, right? Like we don't know
Mark
what they're
Davis is an idiot.
He's an idiot. So like, if I'm the Raiders, he ain't speaking to nobody. He's getting a fat
He's got
extension.
a 3-year contract or whatever.
But we've clearly reached out and gotten permission to speak to him. So and then also it came out today that we reached out to the Houston Texans OC as well. But
Slovic,
he's a big name that's coming up as well.
He'll have a head coaching job this year.
Somewhere. So in the NFL, you can't conduct in-person interviews till after the divisional rounds are over. So from now until January 22nd, all interviews are going to be virtual. And we only know, you can only do so much with a virtual interview. So we're going to meet with these guys. These are some names that are coming up. Dan Quinn is another.
Get to know you kind of thing.
I hope that's not it. Then we'll bring those cats to Tennessee, and that's when you'll know who the serious candidates are. You're casting a wide net to see what interest is out there, right? Then come January 23rd, the people who come to Nashville for those interviews, that's who your serious candidates are. And I hope it's Ben Johnson from Detroit. I like that hire. I like the OC from Houston. They're very innovative.
I like Aaron Glenn too.
That's not a bad. Yeah, Aaron Glenn from Detroit's not a bad one. I think though, like what we're seeing, and this is my last point, and I'll shut up, let you talk for a minute. But like the way the NFL is going, the way football is going, it's right now it's more of an offensive analyst, an offensive mind game. The guys who are having success are those offensive analytic guys. You've got Sirianni, you've got Kyle Shanahan is some of the top seeds in the NFC. You've got guys, John Harbaugh can make a case that a defensive guy can still win because they're the number one seed in the AFC. But the direction of football is more of those offensive minds. And
you got to be careful. You don't want to go too left, or you end up with a
Brian Kelly.
No. Shoot. The guy from the Chargers.
Staley.
Brandon Staley.
Or you go too far left and you get a Mike McDaniel who can't win the big game, but he's gonna be a great interview.
Give me Mike McDaniel every time. Talking about injury problems, that Miami team's had them.
Yeah, but anyway, last thing, I think it's gonna be an offensive coach. I think that's the direction that we're heading. Rand and Amy are pointing us in more of an analytic direction. That's what he came from in San Francisco, and so I think that's the direction we're going to go. But we're casting a wide net right now to see who'd be interested.
Yeah, and I think that's all you can do.
Especially until January 23rd.
Yeah. So NFL playoffs do start this week. We're not going to dissect NFL playoffs or whatever. I'm just going to say quickly, it is probably the best weekend of sports for me. The way that the NFL does it, where they stagger all their games. There's never two games on at the same time.
College football taking a lesson.
Yeah, you've got 6 games played over 3 days, 2 games a day, or 2 games one day, 3 games on Sunday, 1 game Monday night. I mean, it's just wall to wall, and they're all. I mean, even my most intriguing game of the playoffs is probably Browns Texans.
Yeah.
It's just going to be
shout out Joe Flacco.
Yeah,
the ageless
my
wonder.
man, one of my favorite Rebels of all time, Laramie Tunsil, finally gets to the playoffs. One of the best left tackles in football for the last.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, it's 9 years now, I guess.
shout out Vic the Barber. He's the one that lines me up, cuts my hair here in Martin, Tennessee. Now, big
Loved
Rams
it so
fan.
much that he put a hat on tonight for the podcast.
Well, I always wear a hat. It's kind of my thing. And I always wear a hat on this podcast. It's always backwards. I don't know if y'all noticed that or not, but it's a thing. There's like 2 episodes where I didn't wear one. But anyway, I digress. Big Rams fan. They snuck in the playoffs, but they're healthy.
That's a game.
And I was just about to say that Rams-Lions game is going to be fun freaking football, man.
Yeah. You talking about the Lions trade Matt Stafford to L.A., and then Stafford goes and wins the Super Bowl, and they are so happy for Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
And then Matt Stafford's going to bring
come back to Detroit.
The Rams to Detroit for the Detroit to win the division for the first time since 93. Something like that. Since Barry Sanders.
The first time they've ever won the NFC North, because the NFC North wasn't a thing then.
That's right. And so Matt Stafford could be their undoing. Like, it's poetry. Like, I mean,
it is.
And I'm rooting so hard for the Detroit Lions.
Same. I love Aiden Hutchinson. I love that team. Like, they just Amon St. Brown. Like, they just got some dudes, and there's some great matchups. We've got a rematch of one of the most controversial playoff games in NFL history with the Cowboys and the Packers. Again, the Browns and the Texans. Like, there's some good matchups. I'm fired up, man. The Steelers snuck in. I know we got some Steeler fans listening to this podcast. They snuck in the playoffs. They got the Bills, who they could very easily beat, and this feels like it could be like maybe a Steelers run with Mike Tomlin, and who knows what they're going to do.
Mason Rudolph going to
take them into the promised land, but it feels like Baltimore is going to win the AFC. I'm sure we'll get into this more.
I mean, if it goes chalk, it's Baltimore, San Francisco,
which would be a whale of a Super Bowl.
Yeah. That would have been the repeat of the blackout Super Bowl.
Yeah, when Bane got up there for the Batman villain and cut the lights off.
Yeah. I worked in college. I worked for a company called Entergy. Entergy is for the people in the tri-state Tennessee Valley area, TVA, the power generator, the power supplier. Down south, that company is called Entergy. A little different, same concept. Entergy is headquartered in New Orleans, Louisiana. And their headquarters building is right beside the Superdome, the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. And they're like a title sponsor, name on the wall. I mean, big deal in New Orleans, Entergy is. And for the power to go out while that Super Bowl is going on, and I'm working. I come to Entergy, I guess, the next year. And they're still talking about, like, the amount of meetings that were had because of the Superdome on Super Bowl Sunday going out of power is, like, heads rolled. Yeah,
sure.
So that's what I've got. Is that what you've got? Anything you want to add to this week's podcast?
If y'all stuck around to this part, shout out to our faithful OG fans for sticking around to this podcast. If you stuck
around to this part, I just want to say you're welcome, because this was an incredible podcast.
It's a great podcast, man. Great podcast. Buckets is back.
Yeah.
Uncle Buck never left. Like, what a great show. Drew, thank you, man. Like, appreciate you being here for me this weekend and through this podcast, man. Listen, our listeners, I don't do this much. I give him grief all the time, but get yourself a Drew Gannon. All I'm going to say is get yourself a Drew Gannon in your life. Somebody that doesn't let you sit by yourself. He's clearly looking for a new co-host and a new friend here. We talked about that pre-podcast, but get yourself a Drew Gannon for real in your life, man. Good people like Drew. Drew, tell them where they can find us, and let's wrap this thing up.
Yeah, appreciate you, Rusty. Everybody, you can find us at Instagram, on Twitter, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the number 2 Buck Sports Podcast on all of us. Get on YouTube, watch us live if you'd like to. Reminder:
why
we have not. The news is still coming. Nothing has hit the bricks. We still have some huge news coming down the pike. Have some meetings about it starting next week. If you want a T-shirt, reach out to our socials, slide in our DMs. There's more than one reason you could slide in our DMs. Well, I think Rusty's totally available for any kind of DM slide.
Yeah, be careful on Drew's. Mine are fairly open.
Yeah. And so slide into the number 2 Buck Sports Podcast DMs if you want a shirt. We'll try to get that ball rolling on those. But until next week, Rusty, play our music. We gone.
Enjoy it, buddy. See y'all next week. Thanks for coming out, guys, and being a faithful listener. See y'all soon.